What's up, people of the world? Today I am at WeWork in New York. We just moved here from Austin. I'm going to talk to you about the resume that got me job offers and interviews at these companies. A lot of the tips I offer are not what recruiters will tell you. They're pretty unconventional, and I learned a lot of these through my failed experiments, aka lots of rejections, when I was recruiting for a product management role. Now, while the jobs I was recruiting for were primarily in the tech and product management space, a lot of the principles and tips are applicable to any job. Let's get to it. First off, here's a quick scan of my resume. Pause as needed, and then we'll jump right into the tips I have for you. The number one tip I have for anyone that's applying to any job is that you should make sure you're communicating the impact and outcome of what you did, not what you're doing at that job. For example, let's compare these two sentences. Organize stand-ups with my engineers and designers versus launched a product that 10x'd revenue. What do you think is going to catch a recruiter or hiring manager's eye? The first sentence has a lot of jargon. Stand-up, engineers, designers. But that's about the only thing that's going to catch a recruiter's eye. Whereas the second one is an outcome of the fact that you organized all of these stand-ups. That's what you need to show. That first sentence is a waste of space on your resume. In fact, it might even be a detractor to your resume. Why? Because it's expected that all PMs organize stand-ups. Don't put line items that are already expected of you in the role. You want to stand out and communicate that you made an impact that went above and beyond expectations. Here are some examples of bad line items for your resume. And then here are some good ones. Number 2 is show impact through numbers. You want to quantify how much revenue or how many people you work with or how much more efficient you made systems. Now, sometimes you might have to make a smart guess about some of these numbers. I'm not saying lie. I'm saying make an approximate, informed, and smart guess. Eliminate weasel words like nearly all customers or significantly better and transform them into numbers like 87% of customers or by plus 25% in efficiency. In the book Write Like an Amazonia, they share lots of great tips to make your writing more concise. I'll share a link to the tweet thread below. Number 3, consider sharing a failed project. For example, I included a feature that I failed at or didn't get the numbers that I was hoping for, and I included how I bounced back from that failure. One of the hiring managers I was interviewing with asked about that particular line item. It became a solid topic of discussion during our interview. At the very end of the interview, he said that he really liked that I included that failed project. It shows your growth mindset and the resilience to keep trying new things to get to the goal that you set. Just make sure you share the lesson or how you bounced back from that failure in a graceful way. Number 4, always make a different resume for a different role. You're effectively creating a template for every job that you're applying for and streamlining the whole process. Just make sure you proofread every single time. Number 5, consider a projects or leadership experience section in your resume. What's a part of the section? Put in self-directed projects or volunteer experiences or leadership positions that don't fit neatly into other sections. A lot of resumes I've seen focus too much on just education or work experience, but depending on the role, there are so many other relevant experiences in your life, I'm sure, that you can add into this section. And if you're like me, someone who likes to do a lot of these side projects or volunteer as a leader in many different organizations, make sure you prioritize this list to either your top 3 or top 5. Number 6, consider listing your education at the very bottom. Now, this is less relevant for interns who are still at school, but for new grads or people who are in their early career and above, deprioritize the education. You don't want to communicate that you're junior. Put it at the very bottom and only put your GPA if it's above a 3.5. Number 7, consider a time frame for your work experience rather than actual dates. It's much easier for recruiters to not have to calculate how long you stayed in a specific company. Plus, if you're like me and had overlapping experiences, you don't have to use the precious time in your interview to have to explain to all of that. Number 8, put a location that is in the locale of where you want to work. Now, to caveat that you don't necessarily have to put any address or city on your resume. But if you choose to, it's always important to put it in the city where you want to be anyway. This, by the way, is also really, really important to put on LinkedIn because recruiters will search for people nearby a specific location. Fun fact, it's actually one of the top things that recruiters and hiring managers filter for. Now, this might change as a result of the pandemic and remote work, but I still don't think it's going to give you plus points if you explicitly say you're not in the headquarters or the place that you want to be working at. So either put a location that's in that area or don't put it at all. Number 9, format your resume really well. Make it brief and concise. Don't put too many words per bullet. Also, for every job that you're at, keep it at 3 bullets or 5 max if you really have a lot to say for that. Also, make sure you have a 1-page resume. I repeat, a 1-page resume. You'll only really need 2 pages plus if you have like 10 or 20 years of experience plus. Also, make your resume pleasing to read. I had a designer friend who took my really ugly, really old, really bad font resume and turned it into this masterpiece through really simple formatting and better fonts and better spacing. It's a very subtle thing and feels a bit unnecessary, but it really helped me. Imagine your recruiter going through hundreds of these really stale resumes every single day, and then they see one that stands out a little bit and is really pleasing to read. Make them feel compelled to want to read your resume out of a sea of others. Last thing, I consider bolding certain key highlights that you want to stand out of your resume. Last and final tip I have for you, stay human. Consider adding a tiny little space in the corner for hobbies, things that you like to do. In one of my interviews, someone actually said to me, "Hey, you scuba dive? Cool. Where's your license? Where do you go?" We connected over a very simple line that I put in my resume, and that made the interview much more pleasant along the way. Now, I know crafting a resume is really stressful. You're making guesses about what recruiters might resonate with and getting a lot of rejections along the way. I know I went through that. Many rejections to get to a place where my resume felt better than it initially started. Ultimately, a resume is sharing a story about your impact. And over time, as you continue to share your stories, as you continue to experiment with the different ways that recruiters resonate with your resume, you'll also get to the spot that you need to be in and accumulate 10 lessons along the way. Like and subscribe for more content like this. Comment any tips or tricks that you have for your resume. Thanks for watching. Bye! Outcome. Line items. Feature project. Included. Included. The first.